half sitting, half lounging. She spent an hour or so manfully knitting pennies for her tiny feet, thanks to her grandmother for teaching her in her day. The nasty weather didn't get any better during that time. It was good at least that the rain did not pour in a continuous stream, but came in streams of small splashes with gusts of wind. So the roof was still holding, and it wasn't dripping. But after an hour, she gave up. After waiting for the lunch break, she called her husband. "Oh, darling, I don't want to upset you, but in short, if you don't come tonight, I'll go crazy here." "No, I'm not nervous." "Shit, I told you, no hysterics. In short, I'm waiting." Darling did indeed deign to arrive, and in a car that had finally been restored. Since it was already pouring like a bucket, she could appreciate the dubious charm of the exclusive Aston Martin of the 58th year, only in the garage. And there, it was not much to go around the chrome and fancy wet iron. However, when Sir Henry told her, in response to her naive question, that such a collector's item cost almost $500,000, she agreed that, yes, perhaps such a car could give the chairman of the board a better solidity than even a modern Maybach. The dinner was much more cheerful than the previous two dinners. After looking suspiciously at the picture, nothing had changed. She climbed into bed, and the darling did not wait long, and did not disappoint her. In the night, however, she woke up suddenly, as if someone had poked her in the side. The rain had stopped, and the room was filled with the wonderful smell of wet earth and greenery. Even the mosquitoes had shut up. But there it was again. Or was it just her imagination? "Elsa." A quiet woman's voice came from behind the window, and she was sure that it was the same call that had woken her. She glanced over at Thomas. He was sleeping peacefully, his nose turned toward the wall as a good husband should. No, she wouldn't wake him up. There's no telling what seems to be pregnant in there. Maybe she's having... That's right, an auditory hallucination? Elsa. Is it her imagination? Or has the voice gotten louder and more insistent, crawling out from under the canopy and slipping her feet into her slippers? She went to the window. Oh my God, now she's glitching. She can see perfectly well. There, a figure in white, clearly looming on the far shore of the swamp lake, blackening just below her bedroom windows. She can even see his hands reaching out to her. Involuntarily, she threw her eyes on the painting. No, that Zaraza hadn't gone anywhere. But yes, be damned. The figure is exactly the same. But there, on the shore, her mind could not concentrate on one thing, whether to wake Thomas to look at it, or to figure it out for herself, but how? Or to figure it out for herself, but how? Or whether to just give up and go back to sleep. After thinking about it, she called out quietly, and when it didn't work, loudly, "Honey, Thomas, damn you." A second before she was about to kick his skinny ass in an unaristocratic manner, he wiggled and stared at her with an uncomprehending gaze from under the curtains. "Come here, good boy." He didn't question her object, but simply stood up and walked over to her, grabbing his glasses from the nightstand. "Look over there," she pointed with her finger, though it was not the custom in decent society. "Do you see anything over there?" The figure with his hands outstretched toward her didn't seem to go away, but Thomas was either faking it or he wasn't really seeing anything, which he told her quite honestly. "Darling, what's the matter?" "I don't see anything." Unusual. What exactly do you mean?" "Well, I thought, over there," she jabbed her finger again, "there's like a white figure standing there, a woman in a nightgown, and she also seemed to be calling out, 'Elsa, can't you hear it?'" Sir Henry's eyes almost made a faint bulge like a crab's. Then, Deer pulled himself together. He looked at the panorama from the window again, and then examined his wife more closely. She thought she looked a little pale in the dim nightlight, and agitated. Her huge, expressive eyes must be black and seemed to take up half her face. "Listen, my love, I really don't see anyone there. For God's sake, don't be upset. You're in that position." He emphasized the words. "Maybe I was wrong. I'll take you to the city tomorrow. You can stay in a hotel. Then I won't have to come back here, and we can spend the night there." Caroline slipped gently out of his arms and looked out of the window again. The last thing she wanted was for her husband to think ill of her mental state, as if it were unstable. No, she was fine. But then she realized she was looking right where she had just been, but there's no one there. Phew. She took a breath. "No, I feel better. I can't believe what you see in your swamps." "No, I can't see anyone. I was so surprised I forgot to be scared." "What did you see?" "That woman." Caroline pointed her pointing finger directly at the hated painting. "It was her." She was standing on that far shore, and she was calling to me. No, not like that. She was calling to some Elsa. Who's Elsa? And who was the woman herself? The intention not to ask about family stories was gone, but she didn't realize it. Thomas wrinkled his nose as if he had a toothache. Then he grunted. I told them to, bloody chatterboxes. No, darling, nobody told me anything, so you don't have to scold anyone. It's true. Nobody told me anything, and I didn't ask about anything or anybody. So what's up? Are you gonna tell me another fatal legend of the old castle? Her tone was already ironic, and she had a cautious smile on her face, the right eyebrow slightly raised, inviting. Darling still tried to turn away, muttering something like, maybe it's better not to? I do not like these old horror stories. And well, why the jest it is necessary to stir up, it's been 260 years. But if a woman wants something, the woman in the portrait was called Rachel. To be more precise, her maiden name was Rachel, and she came from a family where somehow Jewish, though very prosperous, ancestors got in. But thanks to her unique beauty and inordinate intelligence, she made such a strong impression on Crown Lord Thomas Henry that he bravely ignored all the nagging stereotypical objections of the rest of the family. Anne D. got married. Foe are the first few years, of course, there was real to call things by their proper names, squabbling. But very soon Rachel, as the household now called her, proved that her advice was doing both her husband and the family clan good. It was she who suggested investing in the production of scotch and then building a huge storage facility to age the oak casks for 5 years. By the way, dear, factory and warehouses are still making a good profit. It was at her suggestion that Sir Henry bought land and fine fleece rams and sheep for breeding, and built the first factory for the production of high-quality fabrics. And by the way, it was she who wanted a greenhouse. And in general, a lot of other things were done and transformed under her, and all to good effect. There was only one woman who never fully accepted Mrs. Henry's plebeian origins, her husband's mother, and her name was Elsa. Yes, I agree, a strange name for an old Scottish family, probably named after a great-great-grandmother. She was brought back from a crusade by one of the crusaders, and she was Germanic, and her distant great-great-great, and so on, granddaughter could not accept a Jewess. According to legend, she was the one who killed the poor girl. No, darling, I don't think anything myself. I'm just telling you what you asked me to tell you. What's been passed down from generation to generation. No, there's no record of it. What's there to be proud of? That my ancestors behaved like members of a needlework circle in any small town? That's right, intrigue, gossip, outright slander, quarrels with neighbors, treacherous attacks on them and their yeomen. Well, that's what all feudal lords used to do. If I'd lived in those days, I'd have had to. Exactly. Oh ho 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 ho. And pardon me, Lady Elsa. She couldn't calm down. Her son had been married for nearly 20 years, and her 3 sons grew up to be stout and intelligent and educated. For aristocrats, the eldest was already at Eton, the younger ones were homeschooled for the time being. Rachel's credit, by the way. And then there was a daughter, Olivia, beautiful, just like her mother. Well, the whole story didn't hurt her. She was successfully married, and later she went to America. So, when the second son was sent to Cambridge, Elsa invited a distant relative to visit her, with her son, impoverished noble family, and all that. Well, the son was in his early 40s and a widow. Isn't that boring? What's there to tell? You've already guessed it. That's right. No matter how sensible Rachel was, Elsa was able to slander her and arrange for her son to catch the couple on an alleged date. No. Lady Elsa had summoned her daughter-in-law to the park on some pretext, and then this idle lout had come there. It was enough for Sir Henry to show them from his bedroom window. Rachel, of course, was justified. The guests were politely asked to leave, but not before Sir Henry had made a perfect hole in his assailant's thigh with his rapier. What? No, I think the bastard survived. But Elsa didn't rest. What was the second incident? I do not remember in detail. Something like with hiding and transferring part of the profits to his relatives. Sir Henry wasn't much of an accountant. He might have believed it. But there was a third episode that was egregious. When Rachel's husband began to, somewhat give up his position, she decided to restore his abilities. She knew some family recipe, herbs, powders, ashes of something burnt. In short, when she was preparing another such composition, she was caught. Oh, it was bad timing. for the church tribunal was raging in the area, and it could have ended very badly for Sir Henry. They could have taken the children and the estate, but Rachel didn't wait for that and drowned herself in this very lake. It was much bigger and deeper back then, of course. Yes, she drowned herself in her nightgown. No, darling, it's all just a beautiful legend. Great-great-grandfather said she died of a heart attack. Nevertheless, ever since then, local girls who don't keep their innocence until marriage are scared. Rachel will come, take her to the bottom of the deep, cover her lustful eyes with stinking silt, gag her throat with watergrass, and leave her in the lake forever, to lead round dances at night, to drive late travelers crazy. No, I learned that poem when I was about 5. It's kind of a tease for all the neighborhood kids. Well, you know how kids love to scare the younger ones. And also the locals say that sometimes the Sind maidens really hear the call. The people here are rather dark, and except for their land and sheep are not interested in anything. So they tell and sing tales on holidays in pubs, and at parties and guests. How does it sound with music? I don't know. I haven't heard it. I'm sorry. Come on, don't be mad. I told you not to listen to bullshit. And to tell me, come here. No, you can't get away with it if you woke me up. Whose mouth is that? And the foot? Oh, please tell me you can't give me a kiss on the neck. Almost nothing more was said, but some actions of her lover helped Caroline quite well. Distracted, at least somewhere underlying the splinter of dissatisfaction remained. In the morning, the darling departed again, not in the cab she had called, but in her precious collector's ruin. And it's not a pity to destroy on such roads. And yet, softened and muddy,